Hello, I hit the wrong button. Welcome everyone to my weekly Wednesday chat. I am Anne LaFollette, and it is a little dark here today in California. We are having a big rainstorm, and so it's a little bit dark in the house all of a sudden. But I am here live every Wednesday at noon Pacific, which is 3 p.m. Eastern, to talk to you about art, creativity, and my passion, which is surface pattern design. And if you are new here, say hi in the comments so that I can say hi back. And I always like to start with a very basic description of what surface design is, because I had never heard of it before. I had a 30-year career in retail. I worked at giant companies like the Gap and Old Navy and others that you would have heard of. I actually wasn't even on the creative side of those companies. I was in strategy, international expansion, and inventory management. I was not on the creative side of the business at all. But after working at the Gap for 15 years, my boss called me into his office and he eliminated my job. And so all of a sudden, boom, I didn't have my corporate job anymore. But as my mom said at the time, when one door closes, another door opens. And so I had the very good fortune to have an incredibly supportive family who told me to lean in to my creativity, because I had a box of art supplies gathering dust in the basement because I worked like I worked like a chicken with my head cut off, right? I was very dedicated to my job, my corporate job. I was type A personality. And so although I would acquire art supplies, I never used any of them. And during my exploration, I discovered this incredible industry called surface pattern design. And the best way to describe it is, if you look around yourself right now, you will probably see a half a dozen things that have a design on them. It could be the quilt that's on your bed that's made up of fabrics, and someone designed these fabrics. These are actually my designs that someone in my beautiful creative community made this quilt for me using my fabrics. You can also create beautiful tissue paper, wrapping paper, all kinds of beautiful products. The carpet, someone created that design. The duvet cover on your bed. The tea towels in your kitchen. I'm not wearing one of my blouses today, but I have a whole series of blouses that I wear it's my fabric. It's fabric with my design on it. So that's what surface pattern design is. And it's an incredible industry. And one of my dearest friends and mentors who helped me at the very beginning of when I reinvented myself and said I want to do this for a living, her name is Bonnie Christine. And Bonnie Christine is the most amazing woman on the planet. I love her dearly. And once a year only, she does this incredible free workshop. And she shares all of her secrets and all of her knowledge about the surface design industry. And it's in celebration of her incredible online course that's called Immersion. And as I think I saw one of you say in the comments, I have a Pattern Design Academy program that's really great for beginners. And Bonnie's program is great for both beginners and for more advanced students. It's kind of like the master's program. But she also totally is fabulous for beginners. So I had an interview with her recently, and I wanted to share it with you because she's the most amazing person. You're going to fall in love with her, and I want to make sure, since she only offers this workshop once a year, that you don't miss it. And Pauline's going to put the link in the comments so that you can grab your spot. It starts next week, and it's very approachable because she sends you, once you sign up, she's going to send you the videos in your email. They're going to come in your email. So you're going to be able to watch them when you get the email, and you can watch them if you're working, you can watch them at night, you can watch them kind of whenever you want. And then she also has Q&A sessions. And so it's kind of every other day. So Monday the 5th, you'll get a video from her, and then Tuesday you can join her live for a Q&A. But here's the thing. If you're too busy and you can't even do that, you'll get the replay afterwards. So it's incredibly, she tries to make it very, very, very approachable. She makes it very accessible because no matter what your situation is, you will be able to watch the videos and also get the replays of the Q&As. And she is charming, absolutely charming. And so thank you very much, Pauline, for putting the link into the comments. So I'm going to play this interview and then I'm going to come back and take any of your questions, okay? And it's actually pretty short. It's only 15 minutes long. And so I'm going to do that now, and then I will be watching your comments while you watch this interview, and then I will come back on screen and answer any questions you guys have. But she's incredible. So you're in for a real treat, and here she is. Hello there, Bonnie Christine.
So good to see you. And when I kind of first started out with this dream, I would not have told you that I was an artist. Never. I wouldn't have said that. I would have said that I was creative, but not an artist. And so I really had to learn all of the kind of creative practices and how to start sketching and drawing and doodling and just making it a little bit more of my my daily practice, just to start marking up paper. But there are so many things that come with that, like imposter syndrome and really just staring at that blank paper and feeling like there's pressure to create something Instagram worthy or beautiful or something that you're gonna like. And I think we're really afraid of creating something that we don't like, or not being able to fully replicate what we think it needs to look like in our minds. You know, it's sometimes hard to get what's in our heads out and actually onto paper. And I think it can be a little bit terrifying to even start, because it's better maybe not to know or create something you don't love. And so we really just have to bypass that and put pen or pencil to paper and just start marking it up. And so I still, have some tricks that I have to play on myself to get over the hump a little bit. And so sometimes I'll promise myself that I'm just, you have to kind of warm up. So I'll do like a warm up practice and I'll throw away the first 3 pages. And that's just kind of like, okay, well, there's no pressure to make something incredible. These are going in the trash anyways. But then oftentimes I'll end up keeping some things from those papers, but it just takes the pressure down. I love to work in pencil and then manipulate it from there, because again, it's that pressure thing, like something about working in an erasable, format just makes the pressure feel less and not so permanent like a pen. And so we just have to approach it and, do it even though we're a little bit intimidated of it anyways, and just create the habit of frequently gathering inspiration and making art from that, or just sketching and having this practice of doodling and drawing. And it doesn't have to be incredible. Like, oh my goodness, I've got some of my sketchbooks right here. And I think it always helps people just to see what we're really talking about here. Super messy stuff. Half of this won't turn into anything. Crossed out little doodles, but certainly nothing that I would feel like is a finished piece of art in any way. But we just make a practice of going for it and then manipulating it from there. You know what? Something I just realized about a year ago was just to, like, I wasn't finding as much time as I wanted to sketch and to paint. But I just got a watercolor pad about this big and a sketchbook about this big. And then I usually paint with just one color. So I have one bottle of watercolor paint and one paintbrush. I just keep it in my bag. And so then when we're waiting at a restaurant or waiting in any scenario in life, I've got that. I can just pull it out at the airport or whatever and just have that as my habit. Just create on the go. And, my kids love that. It makes them pull out paper and start drawing, and we can still have great conversation, but at least I'm being productive even in the margins. gathering inspiration can either be the most fulfilling part of this entire job or the hardest. And so gathering inspiration can cause you to feel major imposter syndrome, major, like, who do I think I am? Major, this market is saturated. But every time those feelings come up is because we're gathering inspiration in the wrong place. So we're gathering inspiration from other artists or people who have gone before us and already accomplished things. And that's where you get into trouble, because it really messes with your mindset and what you know is possible and what type of art you want to create. And I think that's oftentimes when we even accidentally make work that look like other people's, because we've been consuming their work as inspiration. And so this is just my favorite part about this entire career, because I teach how to source your own inspiration, which means leave your tech behind and go out into the real world and get in front of the things that inspire you most. For me, it's usually a walk or a hike, but when you travel, things open up. But in other words, if we were going to design a horse, rather than Google image horse or make a Pinterest board of horse art and illustration, or even pictures of horses, we're going to go visit a farm that has a horse, because the entire experience can inform your art. Now you've studied it and you've watched the way it moves and you've smelled the hay and you've heard the sounds, and that can inform your whole art process. But also things like when you go to name your patterns and take pictures and pull colors from them. And then probably the most special thing is that in 5 or 10 years from now, when you see that final piece of work, you've got the memory attached and you can say exactly where you were, exactly what it smelled like, exactly what the sun felt like when you gathered that piece of inspiration. And it makes you so proud of your work. And it also really boosts your confidence as an artist, because there's no way you're copying anybody. You're only creating from your pure heart. For those who are not familiar, there was a popular children's dictionary that was made for 7-year-olds, and my son was 7 at the time. And they only have a limited number of words that they can put in a children's dictionary, so it's not all words. And they were having to update it to properly reflect the language that our children were using. But in doing so, there were like hundreds of words that were all around nature that got removed. So like blackberry and bramble and wren and so many. And they were replaced with things like Wi-Fi and chat and, technology stuff. And so it's heartbreaking. But it's also like a little bit of a wake-up call as to the language that our children use. And for me, it was a wake-up call to reignite that love for nature in my children, make sure that those words that were removed were still a part of our daily life. And so everything in that collection was a word that had been removed, but I also went so far as to make it local to where we live in Western North Carolina. So everything that was in that collection. And so I could go get right in front of it. I am not properly or traditionally trained in color theory or anything like that. And I think I'm just typically drawn to a very kind of predictable color palette. Now, I don't use the same color palette. Like, I have a rule, right, that I can use whatever color I want, but I might take the more muted kind of vintage version of that color in my work, because that's just part of my style and truly what I'm just drawn to. But sometimes I feel like for instance, that there are a lot of color issues on this. This was one of my very first patterns, and I could just talk about this for a long time. This is a blue against a green. The contrast is not high enough. This brown is like something that new people do all the time, this taupey brown color. I don't know. It's just like what beginners typically go to. And so many color issues here. And then, so that was probably 10 years ago. And then something more recent is something like this. It's kind of small. but
Beautiful.
much more sophisticated. And so part of that has to do with your color, just being willing to play with color, but specifically reverse engineer other color palettes that you like. So if you see something out in the world that you love, especially if it's, a vintage textile or clothing or a painting on the wall or something, snap a picture of it and then go pull the colors from it and try to figure out what is it about this color palette that works. What is it that really brings it together, brings it to life? And you'll be surprised when you pull colors from something that you've taken a picture of and they're in squares. Now all of a sudden I'm like, I would have never pulled those colors together, but they work so well in an application. And so I've been able to kind of figure out, well, what is it about that palette that works? Is it warm or cool or high contrast or, all of this stuff? And so it just takes a little bit of studying and playing around with what works and what doesn't work. Such a huge love for this particular generation, because I don't think that the opportunity was quite there, when you were 30. Very much the career atmosphere was, that's not a real job. You need to go get a real job, right? And so a lot of the women in my community that are that age have really stories that touch me so much. They'll have had parents who told them go get a real job, or the starving artist thing, or art teacher who told them they weren't cut out for being creative, and none of it is true. And so most of the success stories that come through our course don't have an art history, don't have an art degree. I certainly didn't. And I think that that's the coolest thing about not only surface design as an industry, but also the day in which we live. There's truly no discrimination on age or location, because all it is your work. And so produce good work, and nothing else matters. And you can do that from wherever and whenever you want. And so it's truly never too late. Workshop happening this week. It's entirely free. The feedback from it has just been incredible, because what happens in this workshop is not only do you wrap your mind around what the possibility is, but you get to come out of it with a plan on paper. And so it's really impactful, and it's called Secrets to Success in Surface Design. And there are 7 secrets that I share through the whole thing. And there's a whole thing that I do, and I also say it out loud so you won't miss it. And if you track all 7, which is super easy to do, you track all 7, you put them in a form, and then you just automatically get entered to win this set. I think it really takes a moment of coming to have a gut check. When I start talking about it, I have a lot of people who are learning about it for the very first time. And we have that moment, right? Like, I'll never forget the moment that I learned what this was, and I got so excited about it. And so I think that that's the biggest thing that happens in the workshop is after 4 lessons, and they're only about 15-20 minutes each, you will come out knowing with 100% certainty if this is a yes or a no. And I think that that's my biggest goal, because that in between the hemming and hawing and, not just the uncertainty and the unrest and not knowing, being on the fence, right, is so uncomfortable, but it really is. It takes a lot of mental energy to try to decide. And so we kind of put you on a fast pace to figuring out what this is, what the opportunity is, what it would look like to work as one. Let's put it on paper. Then with certainty whether. And so my goal is that it's like a heck yes or a heck no, nothing in between. So come through the workshop and you'll just have with certainty. You won't have to, I think that's comes down to the intention of having the attention to really give your bigger goals and dreams a moment think about what it is that you want to do. Where do you want to be? Where do you want your life trajectory? Do you love what you do right now? Or do you feel like you're called to a bigger purpose? And could this be it? Could this be the way that you impact your family and the world? And if so, then it's a beautiful option. Thank you, Anne. I love getting to chat with you every year. You're incredible, and what you've done is incredible. We love your community so much. So thank you for having me.
Love you, Bonnie.
Bye, everybody.
Isn't she incredible? She is so incredible. And I wanted to pop back on just to see if you have any quick questions for me that I can pass along to her. But mostly, this is just a once a year thing she does. And you really don't want to miss it. First of all, you get to spend time in her community. You get to learn from her. It all starts next Monday, February 5th. And she only does it once a year. So the other thing is it's really, really beautifully organized to make it accessible for you, really no matter how busy you are. And of course, we all are very, very busy. But she sends you videos to watch. Then she invites you to Q&A sessions. And even if you can't make the Q&A sessions, which are live, you'll get the replay. And she only does it once a year. And so it's just incredible. And so let me see, Lorraine, let me see what you had to say here. This is beautiful. Lorraine said, I always thought myself bad at art, but I do recall one teacher when I was 13 who thought otherwise. She saw the value in my unconventional creativity and called it out to me. I was shocked and a little in disbelief when she did. I never forgotten her and how she made me think differently about what I could do. Right? Isn't it so important to be in communities and also surround yourself with mentors and people who are super positive and people who help you see the opportunities ahead and help you really kind of get out of your own way to some extent so that you can actually create a different experience for yourself? We're so fortunate to have the life that we are given, and it's so important for us to be able to enjoy it, but also put out into the world the beauty we want to see, right? So one of Bonnie's expressions is, she has lots of fun expressions like, mine. Mine are, it's never too late to create, which is now a trademark term that I've trademarked. It's never too late to create, because I started being creative when I was 58 years old. Bonnie, I am Bonnie's mom's age, but it's not too late. You heard her say that. It's not too late. And so I started at 58. You can start at any time. But that's one of my favorite expressions. It's never too late to create. And then when you're inside my community, inside my programs, I also say, we can do hard things. And that's another one of my Ann-isms. We can do hard things. And give yourself grace is another one. But Bonnie, of course, has her own Bonnie-isms. And one of them is, there's room for you. Because a lot of times we sort of feel like, oh, it's got to be too late. It's way too oversaturated. The market has to be oversaturated now. And so she always says, no, there's room for you. And she uses that expression because that's what someone told her when she was worried about the same thing when she got started down this path about 10 years ago. Someone told her, no, Bonnie, there's room for you. And so now she loves to use that expression as one of her own. She also says, create the beauty you want to see in the world, right? Create the beauty you want to see in the world by putting your designs out into the world, on fabric, on wrapping paper, on different paper products, on anything you can imagine. And for us as well, given the fact that many of you may be similar in age to me, not as similar in age to Bonnie, and of course that is completely irrelevant because age is just a number, right? Age is just a number. We are creating a legacy now. I am so excited about the work that I continue to put out in the world because it will always be there long after I am not. And I know that my son, and eventually when my son gets married and he has kids and then they have kids, there will always be this legacy online of what Anne LaFollette created. and which is so exciting, right? It's super, super exciting. And so I'm glad, Sylvia, that you're going to learn from her next week. I'm so, so glad that you signed up. And then let me see. I'm going to let you go. Grab your spot. She only does this once a year, and it truly is an event. It truly is an event. You'll be so incredibly inspired. And the link is in the comments. I know that I put it in there, and Pauline has put it in there, so you can grab it. It's also, I'll make sure that that it's easy for you to find. I'll go through the comments afterwards to make sure that if any of you have any trouble finding it, we'll be able, Pauline or I will be able to reply back, and I will see you in the workshop. Fantastic, Paula. I'm glad to see that you have signed up for it as well, and Jackie has too. All right, so I always like to make sure I'm very cognizant of how much time I'm taking from you. It's already been a half an hour, so this is perfect. I'm going to let you go. You know I'll be back next week because I come on live every single Wednesday to talk about art, creativity, and surface design. And next week we can talk about the workshop because it will have started. All right? So thank you so much, everyone. I always like to say in closing that I am Anne Follett, and it's never too late to create. Bye for now, and I'll see you next week.